Like and even someone who, like myself, who loves lifting weights regularly, like to fathom almost 2 times your body weight overhead in a snatch, even like a squat snatch or something, like
It's brutal.
it's brutal.
Brutal.
And I don't know whether I'm just talking like these typical tall people. I'm tall, I've got a disadvantage, which I will 100% use all the time. But even if I was short, I'm like, no, hang on.
One of the best weightlifters in the world, Lasher.
Yeah.
Tall guy.
Ah, shit.
Long limbs, tall
Damn
guy.
you, Lasher, you bastard.
I know, we talk about this all the time.
But
Hi, I'm Halle, and welcome to episode 24 of That BJ Show.
fucking nailed it.
That was professional as shit.
That was actually. We need to up our game.
Holy crap.
We still bumble
I
and
can
stumble.
come in every single week if
Yeah.
that's what you like. Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll just pre-record
Yeah.
now. Welcome to That BJ Show,
And then
episode
just
25.
insert the number. Yeah. Someone else say the number, and then it'll be my voice. again.
24. And then back to Halle's voice. That was well done. Well, yes. Welcome, Halle, to That BJ Show, episode
Thank
24.
you. Thank
Welcome
you.
indeed.
I'm Ben. This is Jay.
Yeah.
You may also hear us refer to this lovely young lady as Australian athlete extraordinaire,
Yeah.
which we will get
Yeah.
into soon as well.
Halle is okay though.
Yeah, and it's definitely not Haley.
Definitely not Haley, not Hawley, not Harley.
and it's
Halle.
not Calle either.
Calle.
No, I swear I didn't say that. But having known Halle for many years,
Yes.
I've heard of all the different variations that Halle gets in
Yes.
business phone calls, emails. Do
Emails.
people do emails as well?
Even in person, I'll generally respond to most things.
Yeah.
When I worked at the gym, there was a lady that I had introduced myself to and like took her for a tour around the gym. Obviously, I told her my name. And then she was asking another staff member about me, and she referred to me as Keisha.
Keisha.
And everyone's like, who the hell is this Keisha? And she pointed to me. And another lady goes, no, her name's not Keisha, it's Haley. And I went, oh, well, that's close enough. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, we'll call you Keisha then.
Yeah.
Actually, do you have any other nicknames as well while we're at
I
it?
just get called Hal usually. If you don't feel like saying 2 syllables, just shorten it to one.
Australians, mate.
Hals.
Hal, Hallie, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, Benny, what are we going to be speaking about today? We've got some cool topics
Yeah,
today.
Halle has been on my hit list for this show pretty much since the start of it. I'm honoured to know the accolades this young lady has done, represented Australia in a lot of weightlifting competitions.
Yeah.
Outlifts me in pretty much every single thing you can think of. I won't tell her how jealous I am of that, but just an all-round rad person, awesome athlete, awesome coach, and someone I'm very happy to call a friend.
Thank
so,
you,
and I just needed to get someone of that caliber on the show to talk about
Aw, I
women in
appreciate it.
weightlifting. Yeah, my pleasure. Like women in weightlifting. And as you know, like I'm massive on fitness too. And the one thing that's always stuck out for me over the last 15, 20 years of being in the industry is the stigma of women with resistance training, how it's no good for them. And obviously like that's a lot of outdated science and probably old school bro science to some degree. But to talk to someone, and Halle and I will always talk about this over the years of just general lifting and stuff like that, and how it's very different, and how beneficial it can be to everyone, regardless, male, female, whatever. So, yeah, that was the main reason. Like, I need to get Halle on the show to chat about this stuff. But,
even just in the quick little discussion that we had just before, like I'm gauging that, like you know your shit, and like good on you for literally everything like that you've done so far. I'm really keen to what did you say you did again? You were training for what?
So I was training for the World Championships, which I went away to, which was in Colombia, South America, in December 2022. So that was sort of like my main event. Yeah, the highlight of, I guess, my weightlifting career. Yeah.
And so that's the World Championships in weightlifting?
Weightlifting, yeah. The International Weightlifting Federation World Champs.
Yeah, that's sweet. And so how did you end up going with that?
It was an experience. Like you guys probably know that in the gym world, there's a lot of talk of performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
In weightlifting specifically, it is a big issue. Yeah. So not so much in Australia, New Zealand, those kind of countries, but Middle East, Russia, like you know the countries that whatever you're thinking of, it's
we
probably there.
we know, yeah.
It is a really big issue, like paying off drug testers, that kind of thing. So going into the World Championships, I was not expecting to do well. I was just excited to have done well enough to go and to be able to mingle and interact with these athletes who I have been watching over the years, who have been, my idols, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. How did you actually go, or how did you place them?
In my category, which was the women's under 59 category, so those women are between...
That's 59 kilos, by the way.
Yeah. Those women are between 55.1 kilos and 58.9 or something along those lines kilos. Yeah. In that category, I think it was like 37 out of 40. 37th out of 40, yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, but top 40 in the world to go to that competition.
Awesome.
So 37th in the world, which I was stoked with.
What did you have to? Sorry to cut you off there, Jay.
No, I was just agreeing. That's awesome.
Yeah. What was your selection criteria, or like what was everything you had to do to make it to that point there?
So I had been weightlifting for, I want to say maybe like 2 to 3 years, weightlifting specifically before I got to that point. So I'd been doing some CrossFit since I was maybe 16. I'm 24 now. So I'd been doing CrossFit, and they do a little bit of weightlifting in there. So I'd been exposed to weightlifting, obviously, but, for the 2 to 3 years prior to the World Championships, I was strictly focusing on weightlifting. Yeah. So it's really tough to qualify for these events. So, you have to do... There's a grading scale within Australian weightlifting. It goes elite, A, B, C, D, all the way down. Yep. You have to hit a specific total in your lifts in your weight category, which is A grade, to be able to qualify for the World Championships. Wow. Now, just because you qualify doesn't mean that you make it. So you have to qualify, and you also have to be the top 2 in the country. Wow. So, there might be 5 girls who qualify in my weight category, but you still have to be the top 2 out of those 5. Yeah. Yeah.
So with that total, what barbell movements are they talking about?
So snatch. Yep. Wide grip on the bar, ground to floor. Floor to overhead. All in one movement. Yep. And then the clean and jerk, ground to shoulders, shoulders to overhead, 2 movements.
Yep. So similar, I guess, like in CrossFit, will have their 3 main movements. The powerlifting will have their 3 main movements, the squat, bench, dead, which you guys might remember from Courtney and Sean's episode a while back. Yep. So weightlifting's now just the clean and jerk and the snatch.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep. Basically what you would see at the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, do you remember your totals when you qualified, and then also when you competed as well?
Yeah, so I actually just hit the qualifying standard. Yeah. At the time, there was only one other girl who had hit that standard, so I was pretty lucky that I didn't have to beat other people. Yeah. And that total was 189 kilos across the 2 lifts. So from memory, I think I did an 80 kilo snatch and 109 clean and jerk. So
that's awesome.
At 50 what kilos?
59 kilos.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's so cool. That's, like almost double your weight.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
I remember, I think there was one other girl who was very close, or who also hit that total. Yeah. And just due to either count back or injury or something like that, she could no longer do it, and I got the spot.
Wow.
That's so rad.
That's sick.
Like and even someone who, like myself, who loves lifting weights regularly, like to fathom almost 2 times your body weight overhead in a snatch, even like a squat snatch or something, like
it's brutal.
It's brutal. And I don't know whether I'm just talking like there's typical tall people. I'm tall, I've got a disadvantage, which I will 100% use all the time. But even if I was short, I'm like, no, hang on.
One of the best weightlifters in the world, Lasher. Yeah. Tall guy.
Ah, shit.
Long limbs, tall guy.
Damn you, Lasher, you bastard.
I know, we talk about this all the time.
But even if I was, I had a shorter stature, just to fathom that much weight overhead. Yeah. Because that'd almost be 200 kilos for me. And that's just, I couldn't even imagine that.
I'm not going to tell you mine.
And just like, just like when we were saying to Courtney in her episode, there's many average men who probably couldn't even lift some of those there.
That's
You
right.
know? Not taking anything away from them. It's just like to put that into perspective.
Like
you know,
per capita,
like,
I guess, like in your body weight, they call it
Yeah.
Sinclair.
Yeah.
It's a big number for bigger guys and bigger girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm even just thinking about it genuinely, like not even your muscle mass versus how much weight that actually is, but I'm even thinking from my own muscle mass when I would practice deadlifts and such, and that's just only deadlifts. Like I would practice at around about that 100 to 110, and that was like my easy weight, but that's a lot of fucking weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, you know, imagining to put that, you clean jerked it straight up. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. It's nuts.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
Is that
Impressive.
still your PBs right now?
No. So I also competed as a 64. I didn't go to the world champs as a 64, but when I didn't want to weight cut, I would compete as a 64. I think I hold I'm not sure if I still do, but for a little while there, I held the under 23 national record, and that was 111 clean and jerk.
Yeah.
And I think my best snatch was maybe in training about 89 or 90. Yeah.
Fuck.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's super impressive.
But it doesn't count unless you hit it in competition. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just, it's such a feat. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And even when I was watching Halle train all those times, just watching some of the numbers her and some of the other weightlifters would pull, it's like, man. But one thing I really wanted to get into was the toll it had on every other part of your life, mentally, physically, the toll on friendships, relationships. I sort of have a little bit of sort of experience there with my martial arts career and how I know I sacrificed probably too much sometimes. And in some ways it was almost too late. Like so many years had passed before I realized, you know what, I probably shouldn't be doing this as much. But I know if someone at a high level like yourself would have similar experiences too. So yeah, like if you were to look back on it, what's the first thing you realize
I would do differently?
Yeah, anything, yeah.
Not train so much.
Yeah.
So when I first made that shift over to weightlifting, I remember I'd not long moved to Townsville, and there was a local weightlifting comp on at the gym. And I had sort of thought about maybe crossing over and just doing the weightlifting side of it. I knew I was pretty strong. I knew I was pretty good at the lifts, but I wasn't ready to do a competition yet. My brother secretly entered me into that competition and I was furious. I was so angry. I did the competition and I won it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a small local one, but I thought, maybe I am all right at this. Like maybe I should give it a crack. So yeah, I did that competition and I started to go really hard into weightlifting because I thought, I'm good at this. I'm going to give it a real good crack.
Yeah.
I think I went way too hard, way too fast. And ultimately, 4 years later, here I am and I just completely burned out of the sport. So looking back, in hindsight, it's easy to say, but, I would take a step back from that and not go so hard so fast.
Yeah.
Did you have to stop due to any injury?
I did.
Yeah.
Maybe 18 months into the weightlifting, I ruptured a disc in my lower back. So I was only 21 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, lower back. I was clinging to the kitchen bench to walk around my house. It was awful. And it took me probably about a year to come back from that. So maybe like 4 to 6 months of either no lifting or just lifting with an empty barbell, and then another 6 months on top of that to get back to where I was pre-injury.
Yeah.
And that was just one of many injuries that I endured over my very short weightlifting career.
Do you see a trend like that? Do you know a lot of other people who have like really peaked in a short amount of time but then sort of stopped also in a short amount of time?
I know a lot of people who have suffered injuries in weightlifting and in CrossFit. I think that you become obsessed with it. It's like anything, right? You find a new hobby, you love it, you're good at it, you become obsessed with it, you go way too hard, you don't give yourself enough rest, and then ultimately you get injured. And that's just a trend I see at any CrossFit gym, any weightlifting gym. I think it happens to a lot of people, regardless of whether or not you're a high level athlete or a recreational athlete.
Yeah.
Did it stress you out, the entire thing? But
So-
the hunger to succeed was overpowered.
Yeah. So I have no shame in admitting I was seeing a psychologist towards like the back end of my weightlifting.
Yeah.
I started seeing a psychologist because it just became so overwhelming, and I had tied my entire identity to weightlifting. I was Halle the weightlifter, you know. So you have a bad training session or you have a bad comp, you're a failure because that is who you are.
Yeah.
You know, so I remember starting to see the psychologist because I was having a lot of performance anxiety. So I was constantly failing. In my eyes, I was failing in competitions. And I went through a phase where I bombed out 3 competitions in a row. So I missed all 3 of my snatch attempts, which meant I couldn't progress on to the next. Yeah. So, you know, all this training, all this weight cutting, all the stress of that, and then you miss 3 lifts and you're out, the competition's over. So, yeah, I remember seeing a psychologist talking to them about performance anxiety and, you know, what are some techniques to overcome this? And they sort of shifted me more towards, well, who are you outside of weightlifting?
Yeah.
And I was like, good question. I don't know.
That could almost be a question anyone could ask themselves, really.
Yeah. Who are you outside of your job?
Yeah.
You know, like,
We actually just had that in the episode before this one. Well, it was technically 2 episodes before this because it was a 2-parter.
Yeah, with Bart from Watermark and Beach Hotel.
Yeah, because he had a a work-life coach. That he brought in for all of his team and stuff, and his life coach said to him, "Well, okay, you have your restaurants and you have your family, but who is you or who are you?"
Yeah.
And obviously that we're not digging too far into that, but we actually had that same sort of discussion about like, well, you know, really what makes you tick. And we've spoken about this on the podcast before because this is something to us that is quite important. When it comes to we talk about mental health a lot. We talk about life balance and enjoying life, and this is the whole reason why we have this podcast, is so that we can talk to everyday people and actually get that discussion from them of like, well, what does life mean to you? And I was actually going to ask you that question as well, because it's, you know, obviously when you said that you went to the psychologist to talk to them, which by the way, good on you.
It was so helpful. So helpful.
That's awesome. What if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, go for it.
What sort of answers were you able to discover about yourself?
It was a lot of stuff like I am, you know, I'm somebody's sister, I'm somebody's daughter, I am a dog mum, you know, little things like that. I'm someone's partner. Like, you know, I have so much more to offer. I have so much more knowledge in other areas than just weightlifting. And once I stepped away from that, my life just got so much better. I became so much happier, and I realized I was sort of like, well, why am I even doing this anymore? If I'm not enjoying this, that's the whole reason I started it, right? And if I'm not enjoying this weightlifting, no matter how good I am, you know, I stepped away from weightlifting after I had qualified for my 2nd World Championships. So I was, you know, training ready to go to that and also to a Commonwealth Championships, and I decided, you know, like, this does not make me happy. And I'm so much more happier and I'm so much more balanced in every aspect of my life without it. So I'm just going to leave it there for now, you know, and I can come back to that if I want to.
It's interesting. Like, a lot of people join the gym or something to improve their mental health. And then there's that small community of us that, not saying that you fall into this, but like, you go 110% in, and it causes you to have worse mental health than what you did.
And I'm not saying that weightlifting is bad. Like, you know, it is so beneficial for so many people's mental health, and, you know, it's a way to build resilience. It's a way to get routine. But for me, I took it too far, and it became, you know, worse for me.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Did you actually find yourself enjoying any part of the actual weightlifting stuff at all?
Not after the first couple of years. So once I qualified for the World Championships, a bit of backstory, I competed as a 59 kilo athlete, but my natural body weight sat much higher than that, you know, probably closer to about 64 kilos. So every time I would need to compete, I would have to cut weight. That is not something that I would recommend to anyone. But I was very competitive as a 59, and I was, you know, at the top in Australia. And if I wanted to go to World Championships or try to qualify for the Olympics, then I needed to be in that category.
Yeah.
So the toll that weight cutting alone takes on you is just awful.
Yeah.
So with weightlifting, there's also not really an off season.
Yeah.
So, you know, there would be comps all around the year where you would need to hit a really good total at that comp to qualify for an international competition, but you probably had to weight cut for that. So even though I might have had a comp, you know, that's 3 or 4 months away, I'm already having to think about cutting weight to get to that competition. So the stress of that, not being able to go out to dinner and have a cocktail, not being able to go out to dinner and eat whatever I want, basically all year round.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
For
off
me,
season.
Again, I know people experience that differently.
Yeah.
But, you know, the expectations that I had of myself and what I was trying to do involved that for me.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Well, even because what's the other alternative if you do stay, if you were to go back and stay in it, the alternative is to stay in the next class up, but then you're also competing with other people who possibly are much stronger.
So
right?
yeah, I would have to spend many years trying to get stronger to compete with that weight category.
Yeah.
And hence why that's where all the drugs and stuff come in.
Exactly.
Because then you can train harder,
Exactly.
faster, longer.
Yeah, recover quicker, less injuries.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the injuries that I experienced, I believe were a result of underfueling myself.
Yeah.
Nutrition.
Yeah, even
Nutrition's
though
key,
I had such a sound knowledge, I knew what the right thing to do. I knew the right thing.
Yeah.
But to reach the goals that I had, I needed to go against, you know, those things that I believed in.
So if you were under fueling, would that come down to you're limiting certain calories to stay at a certain less weight? Yeah. It's a hard balance.
So, you know, for me, that involved limiting calories constantly to stay at about 60 to 61 kilos. And then as I would get closer to a competition, I would do things like water load, you know, less sodium, less carbs, that kind of thing for an acute weight cut.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And then did you, I had this question in my mind about like, so you're calorie cutting basically the whole year.
Yeah. Or for me, it ended up being like calorie cutting and then post competition binge eating.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say binge eating. I would say overeating.
Overeating.
Yeah.
And did you, I'm just trying to think about the notion that, you know, you calorie cut basically all year. So then you're saying you were under fueling your body to do the movements. But what sort of what sort of training routine would you have for like going into the comps and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Is it like an everyday thing or is it one day on, one way?
When I was leading into the world champs, I started to get a little bit more serious about it, which involved actually me going down to part-time work.
Wow.
Yeah. And I would maybe train like 7 to 9 times a week. So that would be a couple of double days. It might have been like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, double day.
Yeah.
Tuesday, Saturday, single, and then like 1 or 2 rest days in there.
Wow. And they're like 1 to 2 hour sessions?
They're long.
Or like 3?
Yeah. Like any powerlifting's the same, right? Like you're lifting such high weights that you need a decent amount of rest in between each set. So it might be like four exercises. So, you know, maybe I'll do a back squat, some type of clean variation, some type of snatch variation, maybe a pull, for example. And they would be pretty heavy weights, like 80%.
Yeah.
So, you know, each set was probably taking you about half an hour to 40 minutes. And then you'd have accessories at the end to finish up with. So, you know, you'd be in the gym for like 2 to 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask you about like you know, are you doing isolated movements or are you just doing big compound
lifts all the time, except for the accessories. You know, like if there was an injury or a slight weakness somewhere, you would be doing those isolating exercises towards the end.
Wow.
But the main session would just be big compound CNS frying lifts.
Is that like so you said, because you do like 7 to 9 rough, like towards the end, 7 to 9 sessions every week. But is that like, so are you saying as well without the, like, so your rest where you're doing compound movements mainly for your lower body and then upper body the next day, or were you able to give your body some sort of rest?
Not really. Like, it's kind of, you need to be a jack of all trades in the sport. Like, you need to have really strong legs. You need to be able to squat well. You need to be able to clean well. But you also need to have a strong upper body as well. Like, you're kind of working everything every day. Yeah. Because that's just the nature of the sport. And
again, that's where the drugs come in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because, we don't have to talk about that for legal reasons.
What I do remember though is because you were always, I vaguely remember at any given moment you could have been drug tested.
Yeah.
So you always had to give your whereabouts sometimes.
Yeah,
I remember gatherings with you.
Yeah.
You'd have to let them know I'm at this person's house just in case they wanted to surprise.
And I know Australia is really strict on it. But yeah, once you get to a certain level in weightlifting, you have to let the drug testing agency know your whereabouts every hour of every single day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
insane.
and they can just show up to your house, which they did.
Yeah.
You know, they would just show up, knock on the door, come in. You can't be let out of their sight while they're there. You do a pee test, you know, they have to watch you. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I even had like blood tests done in my own home too. Like they would bring,
Is that while you're in the pool of lifters, or is that just a certain months out from a competition?
No, that's while you're in the pool of lifters. So once you hit, I believe it's B grade. B grade is international, like the smaller international comps.
Yeah.
Once you hit that grade, you are part of this whereabouts. And they can show up at any time.
Yeah, so intrusive, eh?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, which is why I struggle to understand how drug testing, like how performance enhancing drugs is so big.
Yeah.
Like, how do people get away with it? It's really hard in Australia.
Wow.
Between that though, so say like the constant uncertainty of, is someone going to rock up at my front door tonight or whatever, the long training sessions, you said 2 to 3 hours. Did you find it having a really bad toll on every other part of your life?
Yeah. I started uni about, the same time as things were really ramping up. So, I was just fatigued all the time. I was irritable because I was sore, I was tired, I was hungry.
Yeah.
It bleeds into every other part of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a thought then. I was just like, what was your daily routine? If you were to have like an average, like wake up, train, work, uni, train, sleep.
Yeah.
Did you have like a pretty set routine like that? That was.
Yeah. I knew which days I was doing 2 training sessions. I knew which days I was working. So when I first started, I was still working at the gym, which was a lot of shift work, which was tough as well, sleep wise. So, I would wake up, maybe go to the gym at about 9 to 10 a.m., train for a couple hours, come home, have lunch, do some uni, maybe have a nap if I'm really fatigued, go back, train, come home, eat dinner. And, like if I had work in there, it might have been have lunch, go back into the gym where I also trained and worked.
Yeah.
Training session, shift until like 7:30, come home, have dinner, go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I remember,
Yeah, training at the same place that you work, tough.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it's so convenient, which it is.
Yeah.
But, do you see the same 4 walls every single day?
Yeah.
Oh, honestly. But then even that comes back to the mental games of like, what is that like? Genuinely, like, obviously you spoke about before when you said you went to the psychologist, but that was more obviously you don't have to deep dive into that, but like you said, that was obviously mainly for the performance anxiety and stuff like that. But like, if you didn't experience it, which I'm sure you did, of the mental games of like, this is an everyday thing, and you're working towards a goal, but then you see other people around you as well doing the same thing, or at least you see other people in other classes or other whatever. If you're working in a gym and because you were a PT before,
I was,
and then you're training other people. Were you training other people that were doing similar?
Not really. I was more so training like Gen Pop.
Okay.
I wasn't training high level athletes. Yeah.
Yeah.
there's a fine line when you work and train at the same place. There's a fine line between work and pleasure.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I would finish a shift, walk 50 meters into the next room, and it's like you never clock off for work. That's the sort of feeling that I was getting from it.
Yeah.
Because now I'm training in the same place and I'm still at work technically. You know, I haven't gone home to reset and relax. So that's how it felt for me. Hence why that was a big reason for me quitting my job at the gym and going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think there's so much pressure put on performance with athletes these days? Like, where do you see that? Like, from a coach's perspective, I know the coaches, they're fantastic. Do you think there's like a standard coaches have on their students these days, or whether the general notion is just get out there, have a crack? Or do you think, I guess in your travels too, from everything you've seen, are there certain coaches that you're like, holy fuck, like they're being really hard on, almost like demoralizing or demeaning their athletes if they're not performing at a certain level?
I think the world that we're shifting into now is more so just, hey, go out, have a crack.
Yeah. Well, look at breakdancer.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the breakdancer. Yeah. So I want her drug tested. Yeah, her performance was out of this world. Anyway,
yeah, and you do see some coaches that take it very seriously. And there was one, we were watching like the Junior World Championships, and one of the coaches is there rubbing the ears of their athlete, and we were just sort of watching that like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah.
It is there in other countries. It is their job. It is very serious.
Yeah.
In Australia, not so much. And I was very lucky to have a coach who understood that. And he was fantastic with just making sure that mentally everything was okay for me.
Yeah.
And tailoring, to the athlete rather than just like a cookie cutter plan to give out to all of his athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you finally made the decision to sort of like back off it a bit, did you feel bad?
Yes.
Like, did you feel like you were letting down friends, family, the gym, the coaches?
100%. Yeah. It almost, this is going to sound dramatic, it almost felt like a breakup.
Yeah.
Because this sport had been a part of my life, a huge part of my life for so long. And again, like I said before, I tied my identity to that. So when I stepped away initially, it was really challenging.
Yeah.
And, because I had to go down to part-time work, my partner Adam was working really hard to make sure that we could pay bills.
Yeah.
My mum was giving us like $100 a fortnight so that I could just go get a massage or something, because your expenses are higher when you're an athlete. Like, you need to get physio, you need to eat more food for some people.
Yeah.
Not
Supplements.
me, I wish.
Yeah.
Supplements,
Of the legal sort, I should say.
Yeah. There's so many more costs involved with it. So, when I decided to step back, I thought, well, what a waste. Like, my mum has been giving up her money, every fortnight to help me out. Adam's been working really hard to help me out. Like, there's so many different factors that go into me being a successful athlete that when I step away, it's not just affecting me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think that's an issue in itself, that athletes feel either like they're burdening or letting down everyone they know, that their circle, just because they don't want to do it anymore? I think there would be a time in our history ages ago where a lot of friends and family and coaches would be understanding. And then I think somehow family, friends and coaches these days might be a bit disappointed. And I think that in itself, like, because you're disappointing someone. It's not as easy as just going, yeah, I don't feel like doing that anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, what will my friends and family think of me?
Well, it's like that. Do you guys remember that gymnast who kept performing on a broken ankle because her coach was telling her to? Like,
the
it's
footage
a famous
of her,
video.
like she's crying and it's just it's sad.
Yeah.
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 That's insane. Although I actually think so. Even so, if we talk about like after everything, you've given up the sport and you don't work at the gym anymore and all that sort of stuff, right? Did you find like heaps of peace in that though? Because like, even though it's really hard, like you said, it's like it feels like a breakup, and you feel like you're letting people down, all that sort of stuff. Like, did you find like you found much peace in it for yourself? Because I know for me, for example, the closest thing I could draw from that's similar to your sort of scenario is that I was a photographer and videographer for the last I am, but I've been working as a photographer and videographer for the last 4 years, and just recently I've decided, you know what, enough's enough. I don't want to keep working my full-time job plus doing all this extra work on the side. I'm going to drop it all back to literally just the things that I really care about, because I noticed that I was working way too much, working a full-time job, doing all my photography stuff. I was almost at the point sometimes where I was working 2 full-time jobs because I wanted
the hours that you
the hours that I would give, and I know, like, for my partner, for example, she only caught the tail end of that. And she noticed that I was working all day, and then I was editing in the hours of the nighttime or in afternoon. And then I have a daughter as well. She's 6 years old. And I was just constantly working, doing all this stuff. And then I took a step back and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be doing this because even though it makes me happy technically, I'm like, I don't need to be doing this. And I actually had a few people like really disappointed in me that I'd given up like my dream. And yes, it was my dream to an extent. And I've spoken about this on the podcast before about how I love photography and videography. And don't get me wrong, I have not given up on my photography and videography. I've just chosen specifically to downgrade how much time I give it because I've realized that my value in time is so much more worth giving to other things that I love in life, rather than just giving time to this thing that had been servicing me for so long.
You can't pour from an empty cup is like one that I've always said. So taking like that, I can have that empathy for you, what it would have been like for you, but I would imagine taking it back to the question of like, you obviously you found quite a bit of peace through that, right?
I did, and
she started taking up running.
Far out.
Relating
dark age.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Relating to what you said, Jay. Like, I remember stopping, and people were like, "How could you stop? You're so good. Like, why would you stop something like that?" And I remember, like, I thought other people were more disappointed than I was at stopping this sport. I'm like, well, why are you disappointed? You haven't put in the work. Like, you know, if anyone should be disappointed, it's me. Yeah. And I almost felt that people liked to brag about knowing someone who was really good at something or knowing like a high level athlete. And you see that with a lot of athletes, I think. You know, I felt it was more important to some people to know or name drop someone who's good at something than it was, you know, for them to just step away and be okay with that.
I remember the moment you told me you stopped. You had the biggest smile on your face.
I was so
we were
happy.
sitting on the turf. We were just chatting. I think it was like before a class.
Yeah.
That smile on your face when you like could finally admit that it's like that whole thing is over, and you're like,
and that was
I'll
probably
never forget that.
That was probably almost a year ago now, or at least thereabouts. I still get people all the time asking when I'm going to come back to it, and I just think it's none of your business, really. Like, maybe I won't.
That's incredible though, because I get the same thing. And I haven't even been out at, like, people get disappointed. In you for giving up something because they're like, oh, you're so good at it. How dare you give up something you're so good at? Probably be the same for you, Ben, too. With like, I'm guessing martial arts.
Like even PT or coaching. It's like you form these friendships, and like for a lot of people, it might not be the fact of what you were doing. It was just the fact that you were doing something which they loved, or it was a reason they get to saw you every day. You know what I mean? Like for many people, it probably wasn't the fact of what I was doing. It was just if I was rocking up to a gym every day and seeing these people, the friendship was still there, sort of thing. And it wasn't so much what I wasn't doing. It was just I'm not there to see them anymore, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think, well, haven't you seen me running now? Like clearly I'm not weightlifting. It's the opposite of that, actually.
You just did a marathon. Half marathon.
Half.
Yeah.
A try? No.
I did. I when I stepped away from competitive sport, I still had that competitive
running now.
Streak inside me. It's really like it was like a breakup, and after I stepped away from weightlifting, I found it really hard to enjoy just going to the gym or just exercising in general. It didn't even have to be weightlifting. So I thought I need to set myself a goal that is the opposite of weightlifting, and I need to stick to that, and that'll help me get out of this funk, which it did.
Yeah, wow. Mine was food.
It's a good relationship.
I was like, fuck this. I'm going back to food.
Yeah. Did you find that though? Like when you could finally not have to worry about staying in a weight class?
Oh my gosh.
Like an extra 2 or 3 kilos of fucking nothing these days.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the cakes.
And I found that I had such better body image stepping away from that, even though I'm a fair bit heavier than I was when I was competing. Like my body image, my relationship with my body is so much better. My relationship with food is so much better.
Yeah.
I'm so much more sure of myself now than, when I was weightlifting.
Yeah.
You started studying food too, right?
I did. I worked with a lot of really great dietitians when I was weightlifting, and I just loved the effect that food has on performance and mental health is so great. It's so huge. And I was just really interested in that. So I started studying that, and I've almost finished a degree. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So without deep diving into that too though, what do you think are the biggest key parts of food that people probably don't understand, where it's like, obviously everyone's always going to have that different opinion about what's best for this diet, and people they disregard the fact that everybody is different, but there is also some core values of what food does to your body, right?
Yeah. People love to say what is right and wrong.
Yeah.
There's so much fear-mongering around food everywhere you look.
Yep.
And you could say the same about a lot of different topics. Like everyone's going to have different opinions. The main thing is that if something works for you and is making you healthier, perfect.
Yeah.
That might not be the mainstream way that people do things or recommend. But if that's something that is working for you, then keep doing what you're doing.
100%.
Like, I'm not fond of a carnivore diet or a keto diet. I'm not really fond of anything that involves a restrictive diet. But if that works for someone else and they really like it, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's a right or wrong in most instances.
Yeah. I always remember when I was always given like just the basic nutrition advice, I think a lot of people struggled when they have to figure out their daily macros. They were more focused on how they get those macros as opposed to just the art of being able to stick to something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you give someone macros, you're like, let's just focus on hitting those. If you get, say, 100 grams of carbs out of sweet potato one day and then 100 grams of carbs out of cereal the other, if you can focus on just getting 100 grams, you can then fine-tune certain things.
Yeah.
But do you find the industry, like the nutrition industry, it's very convoluted? And like you were saying then, like there's a lot of people out there, especially the influencers online, who almost arrogantly say that their way is the best, whereas I believe the truth is there's many ways to skin a cat in that area.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? I'm like, before all my training sessions, I will have a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
If you had asked me 10 years ago, cereal's bad, it's sugar, you know what I mean? But it works for me.
Yeah.
There was a famous basketball player like 20 years ago used to have like a Big Mac or something before every one of his sessions in the evening because it worked for him. It filled him up. The common sense behind it's probably like, how the hell did a Big Mac full of like fats and everything work for you? But it did.
A lot of the stuff, I remember doing an assessment where I had to, create a meal plan for a competition day for an athlete.
Yeah.
And one of the main criteria was that their celebratory meal is Macca's. So you need to include that in their macros.
Yeah.
So you need to make that work for someone because that's what makes them feel best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's only unhealthy for you if you have it all the time.
Yeah. At the end of the day, a Big Mac is realistically, you break it down, it's carbohydrates from sugar and from
bread.
Yeah. And then you've got the protein and the fats.
Yeah.
You got sodium.
And you got a
post-workout meal.
hell of a lot of taste as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking good.
Yeah.
What was I going to say?
But
I had a thought, I
I've
can't
also
remember.
cultivated a social media feed where the only nutrition professionals that I follow preach the same things that I believe in,
definitely.
which is balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. And it took me ages to learn that too.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to learn, and you kind of have to go through it yourself to understand it even better.
Yeah. And that goes back to sort of some of my experiences with competitive like bodybuilding or martial arts is I limited myself to such a limited amount of food or type of food, like we'd always be going out of an evening or on the weekends and I either wouldn't eat or I'd order the most boring thing because that's what I thought, it has to have zero fats. Or I just finished training. Can't have fats post-training. I need to have fast-acting sugars, rah, rah, rah. And I look back on it and I'm like, man, I missed out on just so many good times just because I was adhering to some dumb bullshit, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad there are people like you, Halle, that can actually start educating people on a broad spectrum as opposed to just you must follow this.
Yeah.
And that is the only way.
Yeah.
Because my experience, there's many ways to do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people asking me, now that you have done a degree, are there any foods that you avoid? Like, what do you avoid now? And I think, well, actually, I don't avoid anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more confident to eat any type of food and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
M&M's.
Yeah. Well, if you
That's an insight. That's a little inside joke.
Nice.
If you want M&M's at an escape room, Halle has a stash.
I had a little
somewhere.
handbag stash of M&Ms.
Mate, this is the nutritionist over here giving people M&Ms as a means of brain food, trying to get out of the escape room.
Oh, that's hilarious. That reminds me of a story. When I worked at the nightclubs, I was doing photography at the nightclubs, and one of the girls, the bartenders, she was out on town and enjoying herself and everything like that. And she came up to me one day. She came up to me like during the night partying and stuff. She's like, "You want a chicken nugget?"
That's her. That's exactly what she was doing, man. Yeah. Mind you, it worked. We got out. You know what I mean?
I like going on flights. I'll take, like the little Baby Bell cheese snacks, always just have a snack on hand. You never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah. Do you find...
100%.
Like, I guess going back to the training sort of aspect, obviously there's been that age-old stigma of women can't do weight training because, it turns them bulky or manly. And what's your take on that? Obviously, like at a high level, you've obviously been around so many male and female competitors.
Yeah. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't look bulky.
No.
And I trained really hard for many years. It is incredibly hard to gain muscle. Like if you're worried about getting bulky, you need to work extremely hard to be able to get bulky. In my experience, I have not had that stigma. Like I've been around such good people, men and women in a weightlifting and gym and CrossFit environment that don't care about that. Like if you're a woman who looks bulky, or you have a lot of muscle mass, that's more so celebrated in my experience.
Yeah, hell
and
yeah.
I know that's not the same experience as the majority of people. That's more of a celebrated thing than it is looked down on.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah.
You look at someone like hard work and dedication.
Yeah. And my training partner for many years, Sarah, she has muscles on muscles.
Yeah.
She's an incredible athlete.
Shout out to Sarah too.
Yeah, shout out to Sarah. She's
Did we? I think we shouted out to her another time, didn't we?
She's a great person.
Maybe
it
was a training episode, perhaps. Maybe not.
Who was it?
Like,
Somebody. I think somebody said that one of the other comp people isn't. I don't know.
yeah, maybe.
Anyway,
I have to go back
sorry,
and have a look.
sorry to cut you off.
No.
Yeah.
She, like, you look at her and she is completely shredded and has so much muscle mass. And then she opens her mouth and she's the most soft-spoken, gentle person.
Yeah.
And she is and was someone that I always looked up to. And, like, her performance is incredible.
Yeah.
Her body or the way she looks has nothing to do with, how she performs or who she is as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've never experienced any bad stigma associated with looking that way. But I know many people have.
Yeah.
And I see it. You see it all the time on social media. Oh, she looks like a man. Oh, this, all that. Like, yeah. But, in person, not something I've dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, like to say someone looks like a man, but then in today's day and age, what exactly is a man meant to look like? Like if a man, for some reason, doesn't have muscles or is again, we were talking about this with someone previously too. Like, if someone's a long distance marathon runner, they're not going to be favoring muscle mass over whatever. So it's like, it's almost like a statement that doesn't necessarily have any truth to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it's fit for purpose, but it's like, it's also, everyone's genes are different.
Yeah.
Like, legit. Sorry, I had something in my head. I was going to say a story, but then I was like, I probably shouldn't say that story.
We'll talk about it after.
Yeah, okay. Maybe. We'll see. But it's like, you know, everyone's genes are different. And just because, you know, one person, like, so when we're talking about like, male and female or other gender, you know, you can't just say that just because you're a male or a female, it means it should be this or that. You know, some people's genes are just really muscular. Some people are really skinny.
Yeah.
I'm really fat, but that's just my genes. I've always been like that since I was
just big boned.
Yeah, big bone.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed of it. You know what I mean? It actually works to my advantage most of the time.
That's like when people say you can eat the same and train the same as someone else, you're going to look completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
About 15 years ago, there was a huge movement on female-specific programs and male-specific programs. Looking back at it now, I'm
then.
holy fuck! Like, they were actually like rich PTs who were going, females, like the moment you do any less than 6 reps, you're going to look like a man. 7 reps. 7 to 20 reps or something thereof. And they were like, looking back at it, I remember buying so many programs and just getting really into it in my early 20s. And looking back at it now, I was like, holy fuck, there's so much misinformation.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some people that still do it that way.
Yeah. Well,
You know
even
what I mean?
women who have PCOS have higher levels of testosterone than other women, you know, and you would think that they can probably gain more muscle and they might be a little bit stronger, faster, more powerful. But, you know, that's not cheating or anything. That's just the way that they are.
Yeah.
You have some genetic freaks out there.
Yeah.
But,
or even like, you know, put it on tip it to like the more controversial side of thing. You know how like we have a lot of gender equality sort of stuff these days too, which I'm all for. Absolutely. But it's like, you know, it's interesting if you identify as a man, but you're a woman at birth, but you can still compete in a man's competition. It's actually awesome, I find. But at the same time, I'm like, it's actually really fascinating. I'd love the possibility that you could go for whatever you want.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's interesting if your body is not contoured for one thing and you're trying to achieve something else. It's like, because I can't remember what the story was, but there was a big story, I think it was in the Olympics just gone. Wasn't there? There was a cross-gender person who won something. I can't remember what it was.
I vaguely remember someone competing in the female weight division who was biologically a male.
At birth.
I recall something like that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, I'm just stipulating, obviously, because we all understand how gender neutrality works.
Yeah.
It's still, even if you identify as a male, you could be born as a female and sort of stuff. So I just want to stipulate, putting it out there. I have respect for it all. But yeah, so I just find it fascinating because we're talking about, you know, if a female is more muscular than other females, you know, and then some males are more feminine in nature of their build. You know, if you put in that cross gender thing in the same time, like imagine for you, House, if in your competition, in your under 59 class, if you had somebody who was born a male at the beginning at the birth, but then transitions to a female, and they came in and naturally they had more testosterone, more ability to grow muscle quicker. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's a really hard topic because that has happened in weightlifting. There was a New Zealand weightlifter, born male, transitioned to female. And she competed at the Commonwealth Games, I think.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. But it's hard. I don't want them not to be able to compete, but there is an advantage there for them.
Yeah.
And you see it happening. There was something with powerlifting as well, like the born male and then competed in the female category, identified as female, and just absolutely smoked every single female, broke world records, the whole box and dice. It's hard. You don't want to exclude them or, even give them a category of their own, because that's still kind of like excluding. That's still excluding them.
That's segregating.
Segregating. That's the
word.
But also, I still think it's unfair. It's hard. It's a hard topic, and I don't know how you get around that. Yet.
Yeah. I would love to see a Steroid Games where you purposely just let them juice to the gills and just see how much crazy shit can happen.
I thought they were doing that, like James Magnuson, the Australian swimmer, was going hard on that.
Yeah. Like, just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Everyone, like, change rooms, there's just vials and it's all okayed.
That'd be so cool to see, right? I think. Like, how far can the human body go?
Yeah. And then get a natural CrossFitter to compete in that there and just to see, how similar some things are.
Yeah. The most interesting thing would be if they are really close, like the natural.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Just how different some of these things are.
Yeah.
But it's like you were saying before, it's such a grey area. There's just so many possibilities out there for drugs and that sort of stuff, and it's hard to be certain on anybody these days.
Yes,
it's so hard.
I'm so pessimistic when it comes to
absolutely,
that. Like I it's a flaw of mine, but I'll see someone and think, no way they're clean.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because I've been exposed to so much of it, and you see so many people lying about it. I don't know if you guys have seen the doco on Cadell. No. Who was the other? Lance.
No. Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How there's a doco on Calle where he basically ruined people's careers because they were calling him out for using drugs and he was saying no. And then he comes out all these years later and says, oh, yeah, no, I was using.
Yeah.
Oh, far out.
Yeah. So I just find it so hard to believe people, a lot of people who say they're not, because there's so many stories like that where people have ruined other people's lives to keep that secret.
Yeah. And that's my problem with them. Like, it's no secret I've used in the past, but I never denied that. If someone uses to the point or their main goal is to be better and take something off a natural athlete, that's my problem.
Yeah.
If you want to, and I've always said, like, taking steroids and that sort of stuff, if a woman wants to get breast implants so she's happier about her body or whatever the case may be, it's no different to a guy wanting to take steroids because he wants to be more muscular. Like, it's about body image, and if that's how you are happy, then go for it. I'm all for it. But if you're using it to get an advantage over someone who's doing it clean and natural, that's my issue with it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's unfair. So, if you want to juice to the gills, go in a juiced federation. That's why bodybuilding has all the federations who they're not clean. You know what I mean?
Does powerlifting do that as well?
Yeah.
Or is that?
Yeah. Oh, there are untested federations.
Okay.
Which is then just assumed that the people who go in that.
Obviously.
I mean, natties can go in there for sure.
Yeah. But why would you, right?
Yeah. There are a few that are all drug tested, and then there's some that aren't.
Yeah.
Maybe powerlifting and CrossFit and weightlifting can all do that together to some degree.
It would make things,
I would love it. I think people would genuinely be interested.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. I mean, same as like football and stuff too. Like, you got to... Like, the human body can be such a fragile thing at the same time, and if you're doing hours and hours of training each day, backing it up for 5 or 6 days a week, there comes a point, I believe, where your body's just going to go, I can't do this anymore. But yet somehow they keep doing it. Somehow performance keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Or you come back from injury really quickly.
Yeah. Somehow, like, you've recovered from an age. Yeah.
There's an Australian CrossFitter who got done for drugs and has gone through many injuries and has come back very quickly from those injuries. And it's an interesting field.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I actually read somewhere about, like, drug testing and CrossFit, and this is probably all fake news. I don't know, but it makes sense if it ends up being real. So it might not just be in CrossFitting either; it could be in a number of different things. But say you had a top 3, some drug testing federations won't test first place; they'll test second and third, because if they can pop someone in the top 3. That's not the first person, it doesn't take away that first person scenario sort of thing. So if they can pop third person, to the outside eye, it's like, oh, well, they tested all the top people because the third person got tested, but the first person never does.
I also hear a lot of people specifically choosing athletes that they know are clean to provide good drug tests. Say, look, all of our athletes are clean. We're actually testing and, the doping is getting better in the sport. But, they're specifically choosing these people because they know they're clean to provide a good drug test result.
So it creates that image of these athletes are clean.
Yeah. Our sport is clean because we're testing these athletes at random.
Why did you get into running, Halle?
I was literally about to segue. I was about to segue into running because I'm interested to one. So how long is a half marathon again? Is it
21.1?
Yeah,
21.
So let's put it this way. I can't lift some of the weight to body weight ratio she does. In actual fact, I probably can't do all of it. Now I can't even run as far as what she does, man. I feel like shit around Halle.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a year after you've given up everything, all this sort of stuff, right? You're running now.
Yes.
What is your most favorite part about running?
Oh,
and do
finishing.
you actually enjoy it? Yeah.
Good answer.
That's what she said. What is genuinely okay? So what sort of running are you into? Are you into mixed like between treadmill and outdoors? Or
it depends on the weather. I was really enjoying running in the cooler months. It is horrible in the heat here. I like it because it is so different from weightlifting, and that's what I needed. I needed that change. It's also like different mentally. You're having a bad day at the gym, you reduce the weights, try again. You might just need to go lighter that day. If you're having a hard day running, you are stuck in the hurt locker.
Yeah.
And you are just left with your own thoughts.
Yeah. If you're 4Ks out, you've got to get 4Ks back.
4Ks back home.
That's when I choose my running tracks. I'll choose short tracks that I just repeat a couple times in case I quit halfway through.
And I also like running because I'm not good at it. And I put so much pressure on myself in weightlifting because I was good at it and I felt that I had to perform. There's no pressure with running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just run.
You just go out for a run, doesn't matter, and you come home, you're done.
And that's the sort of athlete I like too. There's so many limitations on certain things like bodybuilding, for instance. Cardio is going for a walk. God forbid going for a run as a bodybuilder. It's conducive. You're going to lose your muscle mass, And to an element, probably powerlifting and weightlifting too. Like it's a societal joke that like these people don't do running.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that people are aware that no, you can still run regardless of what your training was.
Yeah, I've obviously lost a lot of strength compared to what I was when I was weightlifting. Like my best back squat weightlifting was 150. I haven't trained anywhere near as hard as that. And I have been running. I ran a half marathon. I can still squat 130. Like it's not a crazy amount of strength loss when I haven't been doing a lot of strength training and I've been increasing my running. So I don't think that, doing running or doing cardio as a bodybuilder or a powerlifter or a weightlifter is going to ruin your gains. Like, if anything, it makes you healthier.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I actually, so my PT, Kevin, he was my PT for ages until I decided I'm not going to be working out and stuff like that. But he always encouraged me. He said, get out every day if you can and just do like 30 minutes of steps.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be running. It can be steps. He's like, every time you go out and you're burning the calories, that's not taking away muscle mass. He said, if anything, that's actually making you a healthier person.
Yeah.
And you're going to shred your fat and you're actually going to help push yourself. And obviously there's all the science to it and stuff like that. But it even goes back to that age-old thing of like they say, if you work out your abs, you're going to get like sick abs and you're going to cut all your fat away from your abs. And Kevin's like,
no,
you can't spot reduce.
Yeah.
People still think you can spot reduce body fat.
So, and he's like, you can't do that, right? He's like, no matter what area of your body you want to shed fat on, you can't just spot reduce. You can't spot reduce the fat on it.
Yeah.
So
even the added benefit of getting outside and getting fresh air and sunlight when going for a walk or going for a run is, you can't discredit those small things either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find if you choose an area where those plover birds are, you'll fucking learn to
You'll
run
sprint
really
or
fast.
if you go at nighttime as a female, I've never set so many PBs.
Yeah.
Just like you go through the dodgy part of Kelso. It's like,
when you want to run
this
fast.
500-meter run, I'm going to get done in fucking this long.
That's so funny.
Hey, true though.
It is true.
True though, right?
Yeah, 100%.
What are some of the myths that you've heard along your way? Or the dumbest things you've done? Actually, probably not dumb things. I have a lot of dumb things I've done just because I've been doing it for so long, but you probably came into it a lot more educated than what I did. Are there any really dumb things? For instance, one of my old school training methods was straight after my workout, I would have a tub of strawberry jam on 10 rice crackers. Because I was told you got to replenish your glycogen, mate.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like tub of jam like this. So I'd go out on Sundays and buy 5 tubs of jam. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This was like 2009, 2008. Because I just thought I read in a bodybuilding mag, which are probably all sponsored by steroids and other shit. So man, I was putting on so much weight, not good weight.
Putting on all this weight?
I was like, man,
Imagine.
maybe I need more. So I'd up it a little bit.
Oh my God.
But that's the dumb shit. And I guess I put it down like being young. You don't know, and it's impressionable too because people read all this fake news and like bodybuilding magazines and just random shit on the internet. And somehow I'm like, this is gold. Like, that's my problem. I haven't been eating tubs of strawberry jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did come into it a little bit more educated than the average Joe. And I had a lot of people around me. Like my mum and my brother were always, health freaks. I say, or health nuts, you know. Mine aren't as extreme as yours, Ben. But, the things like, you need to wake up in the morning and train fasted because that's how you're going to burn the most fat.
Yeah.
Which I never do anymore. I don't care how short my workout is. I will always have something to eat before I train.
Yeah.
I think I haven't really had any.
And that's not a bad thing if you don't, because it
No.
means all that dumb shit's been left in like the early 2000s.
Yeah, I went gluten-free for a bit, dairy-free for a bit because I was uneducated and thought that's how you're going to lose weight. And I did lose weight because I wasn't eating enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done keto before. It didn't work for me. It just turns out that I know now fat has more calories in than carbs.
Yeah.
So I'd have all the same amount of protein, but I'd cover it with garlic aioli and all this sort of shit, and I'd be putting on weight. And I was like, but I should be losing weight because I'm cutting out carbohydrates.
Yeah. Carbohydrates are king.
Yeah. And again, so many people say cut them. And for some dietary requirements, with like diabetics might do it, for instance.
Definitely.
So there are reasons why you might, but general weight loss, I think there's just so many different, calories in versus calories out. I can't be any more
As simple as that.
simple than that.
And I know people will dispute that.
Yeah.
And
I even remember a time where for lunch I'd have an apple with, say, my full meal of like chicken and broccoli and steak and stuff like that. And I was told once I have to eat the apple first because the
can't
apple
have fruit after 3 p.m.
Yeah, is that another one?
Yeah, that was another one I remember.
But I had to eat the apple first because it digests quicker. So once I eat all the rest of it, if I ate the food first, the heavy food, the digesting apple would be sitting on my gastro tract, like digesting
all
before,
the fiber.
like all this weird shit. And like I read it, and I remember thinking, all right, so every lunchtime I'd have to scoff my apple. I'd wait 5 minutes so it wouldn't be a backup in my stomach.
Right.
And then I'd eat my proper meal.
I love
This is the dumb shit I used to do.
I love that you can't absorb more than 30 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Or, you have to have this anabolic window after you work out where you have to get your protein in.
Mate.
So many things are just silly.
Did I ever tell you the story about me drinking the regurgitated protein shake?
What?
No, okay. So I can't remember.
You what?
Yeah. So dumb, right? Like 2007, the whole protein window, like your entire workout is a waste unless you have your fast-acting protein like within 30 minutes. And I was like, well, fuck 30. I need to get it in within 5. So I finished my and like this was back when protein shakes weren't too nice. I remember it. It was called anabolic window. Now there's plenty of
the
products.
protein was called anabolic.
Yeah. Now there's hang on a second. There's plenty of products out there probably with a similar name, and I know there is. So I'm not going to say the brand. I remember they're not around anymore, but this thing tasted like dirty potato water. It was the chocolate variation.
Yeah.
So I've done a heavy leg workout. I've filled my bottle up with this protein water. I've drunk it and I've felt sick immediately that I've vomited it back into my protein cup. Instantly. You know when you get food poisoning and you're like, whatever. So I vomited and my mate at the time's like, man, you need to find
You're
something.
going to miss your window.
The anabolic window. So I was like, fuck I am. So I sculled this protein shake that I just bought up. Yeah. That was at the old Genesis.
That's disgusting.
That was at Genesis.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, is that where we met? Genesis? Or was that CrossFit?
It was at CrossFit because then you started working at Genesis.
Yes.
But yeah, that was
dear
the dumb
Lord.
shit I believed. I was like, this whole workout's going to be a waste if I don't down this protein shake
That's hardcore.
right now.
That's disgusting.
That's disgusting.
But that's the sort of stuff that was going around. Like, you're going to be small unless you drink this shake within 5 minutes. Yeah.
Dear Lord.
I'm glad times have changed because I'd be looking at young guys in gyms these days going, idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah. You forget how much you know now compared to what you used to know. And you look at people and think, look at that idiot doing that. It's like, well, I used to do that.
Yeah. 100%.
They just don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say on that though is that I have tested for myself. If I have like a real, I find food is my key. Like I can have a protein shake, or I can eat like chicken, beef, or venison, or whatever it is. And if I eat my protein and carbs after a meal, I feel way better.
Yeah.
I just feel so fueled.
Yeah.
And it's also like lots of carbs, protein before as well. And I always feel way better.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah. Tuna and Pepsi Max in a blender was another one. Just to get the protein in.
I can't remember. Was it you I was talking to? Someone, I don't know. Someone was telling me they put cooked chicken breast in a smoothie and blend it up as like their whole food. You know, like instead of using protein powder, they just cook chicken and put it.
Fuck no. I know some hospitals will do that for patients on liquid diets only.
Yeah.
But I would never do that
sleeve.
willingly. Yeah.
I
But
can't
I've
remember
always-
who was telling me that, but I just thought, ew.
Oh, if you think about it, it's kind of just like eating soup.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it depends what else you put in there though.
Yeah.
Like if you, I think they were saying they would put fruit in there too because like, you know, cooked chicken without any seasoning doesn't really have a lot of flavor, but still you'd be able to taste it.
I'm just thinking about like mango chicken soup.
Ugh. Drinking, imagine the texture of that, just drinking that.
Yeah. You know what? I actually might be able to give that a go one day. I'm intrigued now.
Just why not? Just do it next podcast.
I'll invent that new like Willy
Report back.
Wonka like
Yeah.
the chewing gum
Yeah.
that has all the different feelings.
Yeah.
I'll come out with like a brand new like soup menu.
Yeah, and then report back.
Oh, gross. No, I don't know.
That's hilarious. Well, anyway, we probably should wrap up this episode. I really wanted to finish on like that more lighter note. That was really fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
Did you have any tips of the week for
Oh
us?
gosh. I was chatting to a friend about this morning actually. I feel like at this time of year, everyone's just got so much on and it's just so overwhelming. Like, you know, we're getting towards the end of the year. There's events happening, you know, work. Everyone is just really busy and overwhelmed. And I was saying to her that my goal is just to do one wellness habit per day. You know, maybe today's goal is to drink 2 liters of water and that's it. Maybe today's goal is to try and get 8,000 steps.
Yeah.
Sit out in the sun, you know, like write in your journal, read 10 pages of a book. So I think try to do one wellness habit that makes you feel good every single day, no matter how small.
Yeah.
Journals are becoming a thing, I reckon. Like they're having, I don't feel they've really been that prominent in society over the last, say, 10, 15 years. I remember when I was young, like I had a diary, a dear diary, you know, whatever. But yeah, a lot of people are getting into like mindfulness journals and stuff,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
In the words of Anna from Frozen 2, do the next right thing. You don't get that reference, but I don't know if you've watched Frozen.
I've seen Frozen.
Do the next right thing.
Yeah.
You'll have to watch it now.
You have to watch it. It's when Anna sings this song. It's like, do the next right thing.
Yeah. Did you willingly watch Frozen?
Yeah. I
love
love
Frozen.
kids' movies.
Disney
Love
movies are
them.
the best.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. That was
Thanks, Halle.
fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for the chat, and I'm sure that everyone listening has thoroughly enjoyed the journey
hope
of this
so.
episode.
Yeah.
And I definitely learnt a lot as well, and it's been great having a conversation about all mental health and working out, food, all that sort of stuff. It's been sweet. So
Awesome.
really
Thanks,
really loved it.
Hals.
So yeah, links to everything that we do is all down below.
Yeah.
You can find everything
Insta, Facey, Talk of Tick.
there. Yeah, everything.
We'll tag Hals. Maybe
Yep.
flick her a DM, see when she's getting back on the weightlifting platform again.
Don't.
Yeah.
You'll be disappointed.
Ask her when she's going for her next marathon this time.
You'll also be
Yeah.
disappointed.
Yeah. half marathon. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else from you, Hals?
No.
You good?
No, good.
Sweet as.
Thank
No
you very
worries at
much.
all.
Thank you.
All good. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you next episode.
Peace, guys. See
ya.
ya.
Yeah. Do I just say what Ben?
Just say.
You can say
Do
whatever
I
you
look
want.
straight into the camera?
Yeah. I'm Halle.
Do whatever you want. Yeah, do whatever you want. Take the reign. It's called That BJ Show. That's the only thing I'll probably say. We're on episode 24, but you don't have to say that if you don't feel like it.
Mhm.
We can butt in at any point. So
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Also, just so you know too, Jay, that games night that Kate and Sean were.
Yeah.
Callie's part of that. Hallie's part of the six.
Calle.
Callie.
I didn't say Callie, did I? Callie's part of that.
Kelly's part of that.
I think it was just like the last letter of the final.
Thing. That games
anyway.
night.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you hear us talking about like a
What a vibe.
games night or whatever, then
Hell yeah. Okay.
but yeah, she knows Kate and Sean too.
Hell
So,
yeah. Sweet as. All right, let's get into it whenever you're ready.
All right.